So we have been getting really positive news about Cardano. People are speculating that it may cross its previous all-time high, which is about 12x from now. But at the same time, we have another audience that says ERA is dead. It has been dead for years. There's no chance for revival. So today, we're going to answer whether ERA is dead, whether the 10x is in the realm of possibilities, and if it were to happen, what would be the catalyst that pushes ERA towards that 10x. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Make sure that you watch till the end. Now, a lot has been happening in Cardano. Charles Hoskinson, the CEO of the Input Output Group that developed Cardano, his plan for 2026 for Cardano is to increase its TVL, which if you take a look at the current TVL of Cardano, it is 170 million. This is extremely low, especially when you compare it to other mainstream chains. Ethereum is sitting at $130 billion in TVL, Solana at 17, BSC at 7, Base at 7. And if you go down there, you will notice Cardano is sitting at 34 with just 170 million. Now, TVL is really important for these chains because ERA is the native currency of the Cardano blockchain. It is used as fees whenever there's transactions, whether someone stakes, someone bridges, or they interact in the D app, this token is used. And if there's more demand for the token, it will have a higher valuation. And usually you would notice that chains that have higher TVL has a higher market cap, because higher TVL means higher liquidity, more money in the in the D apps, more money that moves between D apps and wallets. And the more it moves, the more transactions there are, more fees, more people who stake, and the native token is used. But for Cardano, that is something that is lacking. So Charles Hoskinson's plan is to improve Cardano's TVL, and his plan is to use Bitcoin's liquidity. Now that is a completely separate topic, and if you get into it, it's going to get really lengthy. But his plan is to use Bitcoin liquidity, which on Bitcoin you just have a token that is a store of value, but it doesn't really have any DeFi. In the start, there was a version 1 which had DeFi, I think, but they removed it. So there's no DeFi for Bitcoin. Anyone who buys Bitcoin, the only thing that they can do is to hold onto it. They cannot, use it in D apps. They cannot use it to invest in other financial products. They can't do anything with that. So Cardano is planning to be that place for Bitcoin holders to use their Bitcoin in these, in DeFi without having to sell them. So if that happens, and if a small portion of Bitcoin liquidity moves to Cardano, it will be billions of dollars in TVL. And that's the plan Charles Hoskinson has for Cardano in 2026. Now we'll see how that pans out. There's one part that is really important here, and that is Midnight. Midnight, this is a side chain or a partner chain on Cardano. You can think of it like it's not actually on Cardano. It does use its infrastructure, but it is a separate chain, a side chain, which is also developed by Input Output Global. That is the same team that built Cardano. So it's the same team that built Midnight. Now, what Midnight is, in blockchains like Ethereum, Solana, Binance Smart Chain, Cardano, anyone who sends tokens or buys token or sell token or bridge token, it's a transaction that is public. And in order to validate the transaction, the information has to be public about who sent the tokens, who received it, what was the amount. And if you open up the BSC scan or Ether scan, basically the explorer of these blockchains, you can see all these transactions. You can see who is sending what to whom. And furthermore, you can also check the wallet addresses and you can see the amount of cryptocurrencies that they are holding. So all of this information is public, which is really good because it's completely transparent. But in some cases, this isn't required. So if we want the bank deposits to be tokenized on blockchains, it won't be possible because think about yourself. Would you want your bank transactions to be public? Absolutely not. No one wants their transactions to be public. No one wants their balance to be known by the public. They want that to be hidden. They want that to remain between them and the bank. So, what Midnight is doing is it uses something called zero knowledge proof or ZK snarks. What this allows is you can validate the transactions without disclosing the actual data. So you don't have to disclose the wallet addresses or the amount that is being transacted or the balance of each wallet address. You don't have to disclose all of that. That information remains between the sender and the receiver, the two parties that are involved in the transaction. But it still validates that the transaction did indeed take place. And that is a technology that Midnight is using. So, because of this, what's happening is a few days ago, a regulated digital bank of UK, which I'm going to show you guys the news right here, they are going to tokenize 250 million pounds of retail deposits in UK first. What this means is this is the first bank that is regulated and licensed in the UK. They have 100,000 users. They have about 7 billion pounds of retail deposits. And they are starting to tokenize it on the Midnight blockchain. So what that means is they have savings account of users, people who have put their money in savings account in the bank. The bank name is Monument Bank. Monument Bank is taking these savings account deposits and is going to tokenize it on Midnight. So if it's 250 million pounds in the bank, there will be 250 million pounds in on the blockchain. They will be backed 1:1. So one asset that is tokenized on the blockchain will always represent £1 and it will be redeemable at any time. Now for users, nothing is going to change. Everything will remain the same for them, for their end. They're getting interest on their savings account. They will continue to get those interest that they are getting. Nothing is going to change for their app, anything that they see. What's going to change is they will get newer options available to them in their banking app. So right now they have only invested their money into the savings account and they are getting some interest. And we all know that interest in savings account is really, really less because it's a less risky investment. And with less risk, you have less interest. But there are other financial products that people usually invest in, especially the rich people. Things like commodities, private equity, and structural products. So what will happen is these people, the users of the Monument Bank, they will now have the option to invest in these financial products that offer higher returns. Of course, it also has higher risk. They will have the option to whether just keep your money in the savings account and get that interest, or they can invest in these tokenized structural products, in commodities, and in private equity and so forth. So they can get more ROI from there, which is a pretty good news. And since Midnight uses zero knowledge proof, so all of these transactions won't be public. They will be validated, but the information won't be public. That information about the transactions, it will remain between the bank and the user. And because of that, the 250 million pounds that they are going to tokenize, which is about $335 million, that will basically be considered as Midnight's TVL. So Cardano has been here for years. Midnight, although it has been years in the making, they are having their mainnet launch. Is going to happen pretty soon, I think probably this week. But already, when this tokenization takes place, Midnight is going to have a TVL starting at $335 million, which is almost twice the TVL of Cardano. And you can actually see the impact that it has on the price of Midnight. Even though it hasn't happened, this is purely from the narrative that the mainnet is going to, it's going live and the 250 million pounds, they will be tokenized. And you will notice the difference in the prices. Even though we are in a market downtrend, but still you can see the difference in the price. It is the night token is up 15% this week, despite the market downturn, which is pretty amazing. So what this means is Monument Bank is the first bank, and this is the first wave of tokenization that they will be doing. It is possible that they may tokenize more, and more banks may follow the footstep of Monument Bank, and they start tokenizing the retail deposits. And that is going to bring hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars in the TVL of midnight. Now, a lot of people, especially the Cardano, the ARA holders, they're taking this very positively, and they should. But the place that they are wrong is that they are assuming that this has an impact on ARA. No, it doesn't have an impact, or at least no direct impact on ARA, because Midnight is a separate chain. Even though it's a side chain, it's a partner chain, but it is a separate chain with its own native token, that is the Night token, for which you can see the price right here. And Cardano has its own native token, that is ARA. So that TVL will be considered Midnight's TVL, not Cardano. But Cardano and Midnight, they are, you can think of them as part of an ecosystem. So if the narrative is growing for Midnight, it will obviously help the narrative of Cardano, because Cardano will always be an infrastructural part of Midnight and anything it does. That's what Charles Hoskinson says. So even though it doesn't have any direct impact, even though the capital is moving towards Midnight, but still it will have some impact on Cardano. Not direct impact, but at least some impact. Like it'll help improve the narrative, bring trust in the Cardano, and maybe along the way help ARA as well. The direct impact will be witnessed in the Night token. We can already see the difference here. For ARA, it is important that the TVL of Cardano improves, because with more TVL means more transactions, more fees, more demand for the token, and that will lead to the price of ARA to skyrocket, as we hope, because it has been almost 4 to 5 years, actually 5 years, since ARA touched its all-time high at $2.8. Even though there are other altcoins that have re-hit their all-time high, but ARA hasn't been even close to hitting its all-time high. We can blame that on the macro. When the macro improves, when the interest rates are reduced, when the situation in the Middle East it improves, when the global liquidity starts to enter the crypto market, and we get regulatory clarity, especially with the Delayed Clarity Act. When the macro improves, that's when the price of ARA will skyrocket. The question is how much? So it's undeniable that the price of ARA is going to improve when the macro improves. But will it be able to hit the previous all-time high or cross it? Because when Bitcoin crossed its previous all-time high, it went up to about $126,000, which was much higher than its all-time high. Cardano hasn't even been near it. But we haven't had an altcoin season, so we can't really blame it. But the way things are looking, Midnight is a huge success. And that success is not just Midnight's success, that is Cardano's success. Yes, it doesn't really have a direct impact on ARA. It has much more impact on the native token of Midnight, that is the Night token. But still, this is an initiative that was taken by Cardano, and it is proving to be very successful. What's going to impact ARA directly is the Bitcoin liquidity and Charles Hoskinson's plan to increase Cardano's TVL in 2026. And if that happens, I think it's very likely that when the macro improves, ARA may not just hit its previous all-time high, it may even cross it, which is about 12x to 15x from now. So that is my take on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And if you want more content like this, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video shortly. So stay tuned.